on?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and you may, so if there are other people, so did you make Chase a co-host?
I can.
Okay, Chase, so that way if other people have to get admitted, if you can just pop them in so we can go ahead and get started.
You got it.
Awesome, okay. Let's see. Okay, so we have quorum, so we're going to go ahead and get started to open our meeting for Tuesday, February the 8th, 2022. And so first item on our posted agenda is to approve the conservation minutes from January 25th. Do we have any omissions or corrections to that?
It looks great.
Okay. Awesome. If that is the case, if we can just have a motion for approval, that would be great.
I will move that we approve the minutes from January 25th, 2022.
Thank you, Brian. Do we have a second?
Second.
That's from Carl. Okay, Carl, or someone, will you do us a
I
favor of doing roll call?
think this is the clerk's job.
I'd be happy to handle it.
There you go, Andrew.
Here we go. All right, so roll call vote. Chase.
Chase, aye.
Let's see, Sarah.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Brian.
Brian Crowley, aye.
Let's see, Carl.
Carl Melberg, aye.
And myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Okay. Thank you. One. Okay. Before we go into administrative discussions, does anyone have anything they would like to add? I have one that I would like to add, and that's just the acknowledgement that we have a new circuit rider, which we'll talk to. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to add? All right. Okay, let's go ahead and get going. So we have, I believe Bartlett Harvey is here. I'm not sure if anyone else is here to open a informal discussion on 166 Mill Road. And Amy had, as you acknowledge, Amy's not here tonight. She's on vacation, much deserved. And so she had forwarded to us some aerial views and some other photographs, if anyone has still those that they'd like to reference. But Bartlett, I'll let you go ahead and talk about your project.
Okay, thank you. My client, Vinay, is also tuned in. We are proposing an addition onto his house. His house is, most of it's across the 100-foot line, and some of it gets close to the 50-foot line to a small creek bed that runs down a ravine next to his house and under his driveway. He wants to make a decent sized room on the side of the house. He wants to do it on that side of the house because that's where the sunshine is. The rest of the house is not as sunny, and we are proposing to ask you for permission to cross the 50-foot setback by something less than 4 feet. I don't know exactly where the line is. I don't have an electronic copy of that drawing, so I scaled it. And we are asking for some feedback from you about what we can do to mitigate the intrusion into the 50-foot setback zone. We are prepared to do some plantings and add some vegetation that is suitable to compensate for the intrusion across the 50-foot line.
Okay, so Bartlett, just to be clear, you'd be talking about reclamation and probably enhancement, coming back with some new planting. Okay.
Yes.
Fantastic. Do you have in your memory the, I believe, is it the same owner since the last order of conditions was in 2012?
That I do not know. Have you been there since 2012?
We are the first owner of the house.
The first owner of the house, so there is an
Okay.
order. Okay,
Perfect. So Amy shared that, so originally there was, I believe, an outstanding order of conditions that was on the deed. No certificate of compliance was completed, so we just have to kind of walk through that at some point. But would you like to talk to the commission in regards to what your thoughts are in terms of reclamation and timing and such?
sure. I mean, that's what I was hoping the conversation would be. I don't know. I've never done this before with reclamation. I don't know what's involved. I think our questions are, what would you expect the extent of that to be, and what would you want to see?
Okay, so I'll ask the commissioners to kind of chime in with that. Usually we would go out and see the property, but we
Mhm.
recognize it's snow covered. So I think that's also nice to see the topography. There were pictures that were shared with the commission, however, they are snow covered. So
Right.
we'll let the commissioners ask questions and maybe talk about the topography and the slope as well.
Great. It is generally a steeply sloping site. The driveway drops considerably from the road and levels out at the bottom near the house. So is there anything I can say to you guys to ask, or do you have any questions?
Madam Chair, if you don't mind jumping in, Mr. Harvey, have you taken a look at the waiver requirements within the town's wetland bylaw? In other words, are you familiar with what's required by that waiver?
No. Oh shit.
And
No, I'm sorry. I've
it's fine
lost
if
the
you
picture.
haven't. Okay,
Yeah, and I think Chase, Amy had guided them in, because it is a smaller area, of really looking at where it does slope down, to really look at that enhancement as well, that might be favorable for
I
the
guess
applicant.
that's where, in my perspective, I was going to point the applicants.
Yep.
This would have to be in the public interest, but I would specifically point to the language of the bylaw that says actions that are in the public interest may include those that would result in a significant net environmental improvement. And I think that significant it factors prominently in my perspective here. So it's not just we'll pull up some invasive species out of a comparably disturbed area.
Is there a commissioner that would like to speak to Mr. Harvey and the applicant about what that might look like on some of our other properties that we've worked with? It is also including invasives, but significant improvement through plantings.
So, I mean, in previous projects, we've definitely looked for more of a renaturalization of, say, turf, yard, that kind of thing. And in terms of plantings, we really like pollinator-friendly plants, shrubbery of that nature, wetland plants were applicable. So it's basically restoring that unnaturalized terrain to more of a natural, in the public interest, ecologically sound area.
Okay, I guess one question is the lawn area around the house is not really very extensive, and the house itself is situated probably 20 feet above the adjacent wetlands. There's quite a drop off there in the woods. So are you talking about? I mean, would putting plantings along the driveway be acceptable? Or where do you want to see it? Do you want to see it as close to the proposed construction as possible, or are other areas acceptable?
In my opinion, the bylaw doesn't speak to that, and I think that's a judgment call. my personal perspective, Mr. Harvey, is that to me, it doesn't need to be co-located precisely. I would favor something that's more beneficial to the resource area and geographically farther away than something that was less beneficial and closer.
Okay. Well, thank you.
I speak only for myself there.
I would agree with you, Chase, and also Mr. Harvey. This is like the specifics of where exactly you would plant. That would be a discussion with us. Looking at an aerial plan of what the construction is going to look like. Getting commissioners out there to do a site walk and actually see what the property looks like. We can fine tune where your plantings, if that's what you end up doing, where those would be located as the project progresses.
Okay. I'm happy to walk the site with you anytime. It's becoming more visible as the snow melts. But I mean, there's a lot of judgment in here, and I mean, I understand Chase to say, that something that we have to do something significant, but that I'd like a little bit of guidance in going in that direction.
I hesitate to give you guidance there, Mr. Harvey, largely because I personally take a very strict stance with respect to no disturb within the 50 foot. And I'm afraid if I were to tell you what I think is significant, it would make you blush. So I'm willing to entertain ideas here, but something on the order of, in my mind, restoring or otherwise providing a benefit that's on the order of 10 times larger than the actual disturbed area is what I would personally consider significant. But I have, I think, a fairly strict perspective on that no disturb zone and what that entails. So
going forward, yep. So going forward, how would we like to guide this discussion? Would we like to wait until snow melt? And then Mr. Harvey can contact Amy and have a few commissioners that might like to go out and offer some input?
I think that's a good approach. It's really helpful to see the site.
So as always, this is still an informal discussion. We're happy to go ahead and do that. We don't want to send you down a path of non-compliance, certainly. So Mr. Harvey, if you're appealing to that we would ask you to just contact Amy when you can see really fully the topography and some of the vegetation as well.
All right. I think everybody being informed is the way to go. I think that's something we can accommodate.
Okay. Super. Well, we appreciate you coming in this evening and look forward to you being in contact with Amy when we get a little snow melt or ice melt.
Do you know when she'll be back?
She'll be back next week. Yep.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Next
night.
on the administrative discussions, a request for a certificate of compliance, 10 Mary Shepherd, 204-239. Amy said this is old, outstanding property is being sold, and she visited and felt as though it was all set, ready to go. So if we don't, any discussion on this, and what we would look for is a move to issue a certificate of compliance.
Move to issue a certificate of compliance.
Excellent. Second?
I will second.
All right.
You?
Roll call. Brian
Crowley, aye.
Sarah,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Chase,
Chase Gervig, yes.
Carl,
Carl Melberg, aye.
myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Okay. Thank you. The next is assistant update. Amy has shared with the commission the three pages that have already been approved, and the wish is by mention of Ed Mullen. Basically, we're being asked to write a letter to Anthony. I apologize, I don't know the proper pronunciation of his last name, Ansalti, to be shared with the select board our desire to move forward to fill this part-time position. So if we are in agreement with that, if we can have a motion to do that, and then if somebody wants to write the letter, or Amy can write the letter, and then we do a DocuSign, but we really want to keep this train going. So thoughts, discussion, motions?
Sounds great.
You like it, make a motion.
I'll volunteer to write that letter if, I think it would resonate more with the select board to have the committee write it, or the Conservation Commission write it, rather than to have it.
Perfect. Thank you, Chase, for doing that. So we have a motion, and Chase has agreed to write that letter. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, perfect.
Roll call vote. Brian,
Ryan Crowley, aye.
Sarah,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Chase,
Chase Carey,
Carl,
Carl Melberg, aye.
myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you. So Chase, if you get a chance when you write that, just send it to Amy and she can just do a DocuSign. I know you love DocuSigns, so.
I do. Once
Okay.
every 2 weeks, I open it up and sign whatever is there.
Yep. Okay. So just my one update is we have a new circuit rider, Mia McDonald. And so, as we know, she provides technical support to us. And so Amy has been in contact with her, but just so that we can have recognition of that name. Let's see. So it's 7:47. We're going to go ahead and open the 7:45 public hearing. Notice of intent, 331 Goldsmith Street, Mass, DEP 20. No, sorry about that. No number. Map U 15750. Construction of a garage and after the fact permitting to fill and grading in the buffer zone, subject to an enforcement order this past August. Is there anyone that is here to speak to this evening?
Good evening, Matt Morrow here, and the Richardsons are also here along with me.
Okay.
If I may be permitted to share my screen.
Thank you for asking, Matt. Go ahead. Matt, while you're here, because it's been a little bit of time, would you like to do a little just refresher in terms of, my knowledge is septic was approved in 2010, other things happened. So if you want to just kind of recap, that would be appreciated.
That's correct. We had a septic system that was approved in 2010 and subsequently installed. There is, I think flipping the screens might work here.
So Matt, just as a reminder for the commissioners, that the commissioners were not asked to go out on site. So there was no wetland survey on this.
Right. Apparently, for some reason, the fact that there were wetlands on the property is missed. Assuming you guys can see this plan from 2010.
Can you blow that up a little, Matt?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out, for some reason, it's not doing it on this. I don't know why.
Top middle of the
You know
screen,
why?
plus symbol.
Yeah. No, it was because the transcription bar was in my way. Sorry.
Okay.
Managed to exit out. But this was the original septic system that was designed and installed back in 2010. There were no wetlands put on the plan because apparently, for some reason, in fact, there were wetlands that were missed. Subsequently, the Richardsons purchased the property. They turned around and in the area where you have, let's see if I can do this properly. Go to the current plan. I submitted both the black and white plan for clarity purposes because David Ross normally prints their plans out in black and white, and then did my best to do a hand-colored representation, pursuant to the commission's coloring scheme. So we have a bordering vegetative wetland that was part of the a wetland system that is on this lot contiguously. This is the area that comes up close to this area subject in question. Originally, you can see this is the edge of area that was previously undisturbed. There was fill placed in here. The current elevation, it's hard to see on these plans. I'll blow it up for you. They're very faint, but the current elevation on these plans is an even 102. If you look back at the original design on the septic, although it's hard to see on the actual plan, the septic system actually has a table with elevations on it. It shows the elevation of this to be approximately 98. So what they did was basically they filled this area, evened it out from approximately 98 to 102, and then put a retaining wall starting from the edge of the road, coming out and making an area coming around this way. So did examine it with some members of the commission back in, I want to say, end of August, beginning of September. I don't recall the exact time. You can see the approximate location of that septic system is drawn in by David Ross here. So what we're proposing is you have your 50-foot wetland buffer here. We're proposing to take this wall that's existing, remove it, regrade down to the original 98 on a, basically a gradual grade, and meet up with the grade down at the bottom here, and basically replant, excuse me, replant some, replant the lawn that was there here. So. Sorry, guys, I'm doing my best to try to keep the screen from turning blue.
No, you're doing fine.
So you can see the, David Ross did the actual edge of disturbed area. If you mind if I turn off my share for a minute, I can go to the 2019 ortho photo. Getting a little bit better. I've never been rapid fire on the screen share, but I'm getting a little better. Okay. You can see here is the pre-existing area here. The area basically marked off as a square here was the area that was filled. You can see the edge of the lot. Basically, it was this area that was filled, and a retaining wall basically put right just before the edge of the property line. So it would start from street side, come out, and then head in this way. If you like, I can keep the ortho up, or I could put the plans back up. Whatever
Do you
you
mind
like.
if I ask you a question while you have the ortho up real quick?
Absolutely.
It's a little unclear based on the aerial. Were there trees located on 331 Goldsmith that were removed to fill that area?
It looks like you may have had like a couple of large trees here, and it looks like you may have had a couple of large arborvitae here that were removed. This
I'm
area
less
here is
concerned about the arborvitae, I guess. I'm
right.
more concerned about
So it'd be over here. I mean, I can have them, plant some trees along the edge here if you like, along the edge of their property. We could put some red maple right along the edge. I could put like about, 3 of them spaced out about 10 feet apart from, center of stem. Would give them room to grow. Red maples tend to grow fast. They're also, good reproducing trees. So they would tend to reproduce internal to the wetland. And help to keep the coverage on the wetland established. And the wetland itself, internal, still has an excellent canopy. You guys did see it. It has an excellent canopy. The canopy to the wetland itself hasn't been disturbed, but you did have what appears to be a couple of larger trees in the no-touch zone that were taken down.
Yeah, I'd like to. I don't know if red maple. We've quickly gotten outside of my area of expertise here. I don't know if red maple are the right choice, but I would certainly like to make sure that we replicate and replant some trees or other large vegetation to replace what was removed.
Well, the reason why I say red maple, Chase, is because they're common to the area, and they are common to the internal of the wetland as well. And the particular soils that are there, red maple are facultative, and it's basically right at the edge of the wetland. They should take quite readily.
Sorry, Matt, I don't know, I didn't mean I disagree with you. I mean, literally, I don't know what the.
No, I know it, and that's, I'm just elaborating on, out of my head on my reasoning, that's all.
Okay, no, that's, I mean, it sounds good to me. I would rely on someone with more expertise to give that a thumbs up.
So I have a quick question, especially based on the previous conversation of renaturalization. Is there, Matt, are you presenting, once we have peeled back, what would be living there in terms of plantings outside of those trees to bring it back to what was there originally?
Well, what was there originally were some trees and mostly lawn. So
Right, but
if you want to add,
Okay.
I'm sorry, Sarah, if you want me to add plantings, I can go back and do that for you.
Well, it's just a question, and so I would ask the commissioners to comment on that. So we want to make sure that we're balancing what has been taken and what we're replacing. Obviously, I don't think it's going to be grass. I defer to the commission.
Would you like me to pull the plans back up, or did you want to focus on this overflow?
Hey, could you just, this Kyle, could you just go over the mitigation that you're gonna do again?
Okay, so I'll pull the plan back up if
Yeah.
you just bear with me for a moment. So what we're proposing is to keep this portion of the retaining wall and this portion of the yard. We would take out the portion that's within the 50-foot no-touch zone. Get that out in order for them to be compliant with the bylaw. Do a gradual regrade of this area from the 102 elevation to a 98 elevation. So you're only talking about a few feet. That could be done very readily. In this area, according to what we saw in the ortho photo, there were some trees. So what I'm offering to do is to replant some red maple in this area. I don't have to line them up. You can do maybe like 4 of them in a square pattern here. That should do the trick. You'd have to, with planting on trees, I always strongly recommend that they're planted like 10 feet apart from the center of the stem. It gives them room to grow, gives them room to grow out, gives them room to grow up without getting in each other's way and out competing each other.
Matt, can you speak to, you've identified the area in which the grading will be brought back to approximately original. I want to confirm though that you're talking about the toe of slope meeting the original grade at the 50-foot line rather than starting that regrading at the 50-foot line. Essentially, where are you going to start to blend into the original grading?
So it would have to come, the grading would have to come out just past the 50-foot line and then come in and meet the grading. It wouldn't go down as a steep hill, but it would go down to the grading that's over here and meet probably right about here at about the 98. It's not going to take much to do. There's only about 2-3 feet of grading that's involved here. When I say 98, I'm giving you a round figure. 98 was the most common measurement I saw on, some of the original plans. So it would be regraded to a flat area where the I almost said pine trees, excuse me, the maple trees would be planted. So essentially the fill would be removed. The trees would then be replanted. The lawn would be placed, the other areas that's unstabilized would be basically loamed and seeded. And the retaining wall would be out. My clients didn't realize what they were doing anything wrong when they put this wall in, and their contractor never told them. And they're eager to get this going as soon as they possibly can, obviously likely spring, and remediate this area. You know, of
Matt,
course,
quick
I know that,
Matt, quick question on the trees. So are they going to have to be welled around if they're still not at their final grade?
no, no, they wouldn't have to be walled around. It would, I would make sure that that area was even for the planting of the trees. So what would happen is I would have the grading done before I planted the trees. I could bring Amy out, show her the grading, make sure that she's satisfied with it. And then, of course, after all that is done and the grading is done and everything's replanted, according to what I've seen from past commission orders, I'm assuming you guys are going to want to have an as-built with the gradings being shown.
Chase brings up a good point that I'm not sure how it's going to feather into that final grade quick enough.
In my point there, Sarah, was that my expectation is that everything within the 50-foot meets the pre-disturbance grade, and to the extent that that grading needs to start outside of the 50-foot, 60 feet out or something like that, that it should begin there and meet the original grade.
Okay, so actually, I'm going to have to,
line.
I'm sorry, Chase, I'm going to have to explain it this way. They have to take this wall out. So essentially what's happening here is we've got a remedial plan, which even on something that I consider this small, always presents a challenge, because what's happening here is we're in the situation, not by any nefarious motivations at all by my clients. As I said, they didn't know they were doing anything wrong. But what we're doing is we're now doing this backwards. So in order to complete this properly, it has to start backwards, which means the first thing that has to come out after the erosion protection is placed is the wall. So can you guys see my hand cursor? Okay, so instead of the grading being feathered towards this way, the wall's going to have to be taken out and the grading is going to have to come back and blend in this way. So what we're doing is we're not pushing fill in and grading. We're removing fill back to the original grade and then smoothing out around the lawn area here. So the actual feathering would be going into the area just past the 50-foot zone. So it might look a little funny as far as aesthetics for the yards, but I think once the maple trees start to grow in, that will cover the aesthetics quite well.
No, I understand your point, I think, quite clearly. My point is that if the wall stops exactly at the 50-foot line, we've failed to restore everything within the 50-foot buffer, because there's still going to be fill within the 50-foot buffer. The wall itself is going to have to be pulled back further than the 50-foot line.
Okay.
We hit the original grades by the time we get to the 50-foot line.
Okay, well, my clients are present. Richardson family, if you wouldn't mind weighing in on this part.
So Matt, can we also, prior to doing that, can we ask any of the other commissioners if they have any questions or concerns? So then perhaps the Richardsons can look at that collectively.
Okay, thank you.
Any commissioners have any comments or questions?
I think the red maples are a good idea. I don't have any issues with that. I would like to see a little bit more diversity other than just, a few maple trees. And, like Chase, I would defer to someone with more ecological, biodiversity background to suggest some plantings. But, some species diversity beyond just a few maple trees would be beneficial.
Well, if the commission wishes, I'll be more than happy to come up with a more specific planting table for that area.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Anyone else? Okay, Matt, if the Richardsons would like to comment, that'd be great.
So with the question that was that the grading should start further away from the 50-foot line. I think that makes sense.
Yes, Lorelei. So essentially what will wind up happening is we'd have to remove a little bit more than 50 feet of the wall. My take on it is, an extra like 5 feet would be fine. It would give plenty of opportunity to basically meet Commissioner Gerbig's goals. So the area, like I said, the area would look a little funny after it's graded. It's not going to be even. Like you have a nice even yard right now. You squared everything off. It's not going to be square anymore.
That's okay.
It's going to have that one area, but we'll naturalize it and actually it'll actually wind up being very pretty. I can go back and come up with a decent planting plan that I'm sure the commission would be happy with. And we could work it out that way with them. And address everyone's concerns to make sure that this is done. I didn't realize DEP hadn't issued a number yet. I'm going to have to get on Judy and find out what's going on over DEP. I know they've been slow with a lot of numbers for some reason, and I think that's just the fact of them being overwhelmed.
Well, Matt, and we're hopeful that you're going to come up with more than just a decent planting plan as well.
So, hey, Matt, Carl, I'd look and see if you get some pollinators in there as part of your planting plan. It looks like it'd be a good place for that.
Considering the invasives that I found internal to the wetland on the abutting lots, yeah, I would agree. Because I got cut up pretty good going around that area in some of those spots. They get pretty dense. And that's the stuff that's off the property. There's multiflora rose really seems to like that area. And yeah, I can come up with a lot more pollinated diversity than the spotted touch-me-nots that are straggling around that area.
Okay, Matt, so we meet again on February the 22nd without a final plan and planting plan and DEP. Would you like us to continue to February 22nd?
Well, that would be great. I mean, if there's no DEP number, there's no sense in doing anything else right now, because I'd rather see if DEP has any comments.
Okay. Okay, with that said.
Sarah, before we
Yes,
move on,
go ahead, Chase.
one last comment for the applicant. As I recall, when we did the site walk, there were some drains out there. They may have just been toe drains in the wall, but in a couple weeks' time, I want to make sure that we're not talking about continuing some sort of drainage structure from the post-construction lawn into the wetlands. Or if we are, I want to understand what that is. But if they're just toe drains, I would presume they go out when the water goes out. Or it's also conceivable that I'm not recalling it correctly and there weren't toe drains in that one. But I think there was something there. So just be prepared to talk about that in a couple of weeks' time as well.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to meet the Richardsons on the property at the end of the week anyway, because I'm going to want to go over things with them personally, not over the phone. So I'll take some pictures of the existing structure that's out there so you can see it.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so that will be continued. So the next hearing is the 8 p.m. public meeting, request for a determination of applicability. Taylor Street water main installation. Who's here to continue discussion on that?
Steve Donay from Tate and Howard.
Thank you, Stephen. If you would like to do just a brief overview and bring us up to speed, that would be great.
Yeah, do you want me to share my screen for the?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the Littleton Electric Light and Water Department plans to construct a water main, several water mains along Whitcomb Avenue, Warren Street, and Taylor Street. The ones in Whitcomb Avenue and Warren Street simply replacing existing water mains, staying within the paved roadway. Taylor Street, there's a gap of about 480 feet between the water mains heading in either direction. They're proposing to install a new water main to eliminate this gap. The water main will be constructed primarily within the paved street there. The only work that'll be done outside of the paved road would be connecting into the existing main on either end of the project, here and down at this end also. And then replacing an existing hydrant right here, connecting into an existing service here and an existing service here. All of the work with them be putting in water main within the roadway right here. Project should take about a week or so to complete.
Okay, any commissioners have any questions? I think many have been on site and had an opportunity to review the notes back and forth.
Steve, can you talk me through the erosion sedimentation controls that will be implemented in this project?
Yeah, so we've got straw wattles will be lining both sides of the street. Trench work, the trench will be filled in every day. Material that'll be stockpiled on site would really be limited to water mains and probably not even the hydrant. Any backfill material will be stockpiled somewhere else and then brought
Out of the
on site
resource
as-
area or buffer zone?
Yeah, because it's primarily, this is all in the buffer zone.
Trench, talk me through trench dewatering. Anticipated, not anticipated, if it is anticipated. What do you plan on doing? If you encounter it and not, what do you plan on doing?
Hopefully not there. Always is the possibility for that.
I don't know, there's a lot of water there. I'm
Yeah.
skeptical.
So, sedimentation basin will be set up on site there, and they will pump in, filter out any sediment out of it, and then the water can return. Clean water can return.
And that, Chase, that can be noted in the order of conditions as well, I believe.
Well, I mean, right now correct me if I'm wrong, this is a request for determination, right?
Nope,
Correct.
yep, correct, sorry.
So I guess it's part of why I'm digging deeply into this, because if we find that we don't need to issue an order of conditions, I want to make sure that it's still being addressed appropriately and consistent with the Wetlands Protection Act.
However, is a waiver required for this?
We wanted to bring it up because it is actually a new water main that will be installed within the buffer. It's not replacing an existing water main.
Right, so a waiver would be required. Have you had a chance to talk to Amy about that?
Yes.
And where do you stand up? Where do you stand in that process?
Amy, the conservation agent, correct?
Yes, thank you for
Yes.
clarifying. Yep.
No, she think, I can check her email.
Right, that a waiver is required. So my question is, what is your stance on that in preparation for that?
We think a waiver would be proper.
Okay. Have you filed that or reviewed it yet?
I'm sorry, Mr. Daniels, do they need a waiver if we reach a negative determination of applicability?
I believe in Amy's notes that it was required.
Oh, I misunderstood that. Okay.
But if it's a negative determination, doesn't that mean that an NOI isn't required, though?
Yeah, that's where I'm. that's the loop I'm stuck in, Andrew.
So Amy's notes, a routine maintenance piece is exempt, but the Taylor Street work isn't exempt since it's a new installation.
See, I guess, and this is where I would defer to Amy here, but when I read the Wetlands Protection Act, the exemption for utilities doesn't speak to new versus restored installations.
Well, this utility, it's within the paved, already disturbed area. So there's no new disturbance from this work.
Right, and the Wetlands Protection Act says installation of underground utilities within existing paved or unpaved roadways, provided that all work is conducted within the roadway and that all trenches are closed at the completion of each workday. That is an exemption.
Yes. Trenches will be
and-
closed every day.
And that's where the mismatch between new installation, that literal language doesn't differentiate between new installation and maintenance. And so I wish Amy was here to give us that touch point guidance on this, because I feel a little wrong-footed right now.
May I ask, are you willing to consider a continuation of this discussion until the next meeting, or are you looking to finalize that this evening?
I would love to finalize this evening.
I don't know that you'll have.
If that is possible. If not, we can continue it.
Okay. I know I have a question on the waiver. So.
Here's my argument with respect to the waiver, though, and why I could reach a negative determination here without the waiver. The argument that this is in the public interest is obvious on its face. And so I understand we need to dot the I's and cross the T's with respect to the paperwork, but I don't see any issue with the waiver, whether it's required or not, for a negative determination here, and passing muster with respect to the exceptions.
I agree with you, but they have to submit it. I think it would be accepted. What are the other commissioners? What is your pleasure?
Well, I agree with everything that's been said, but would we then have to do a positive determination and then ask for full NOI with the waiver, though? Or can we ask for a waiver with an RDA?
Any other commissioners have any input?
I'd like to see it delayed until we had a chance to run some things by Amy, because it's basically just going by notes.
I think that's a good idea. There's procedurally, there's just a lot of questionable things.
Yeah, I think that because, and I think we all feel as though it is in the public interest. So I feel as though it's just another procedural form for this, and I recognize it does have to be sent out to bid, but we would be looking at February the 22nd. What would the commissioners like to do?
I think we should wait and get that input from Amy.
Okay. Are we in agreement of that, or what would we like to do?
I mean, I think we've also given the applicant a decent amount of guidance here, and could certainly go back to his client with a decent idea of how this will play out in the long run. So I'm fine extending it a couple of weeks.
Right, and I think that we are in support of the waiver. I think we just need to be consistent. So I would ask that we continue this to February 22nd if you were in agreement with that, sir.
Okay. Is there anything we need to prepare for the 22nd?
Not to my knowledge, except for obviously the waiver, the language to be submitted for that.
Okay. So have the vote.
I will note too, not just the waiver, the Wetlands Protection Act, even if we were to reach a negative determination here, it doesn't absolve you of all responsibility to comply with some of those controls. So I would be interested in your ability to commit to and speak to more formally the additional erosion sedimentation controls, sedimentation basin locations, et cetera, just to make sure that even if we reach a negative determination, the interests of the town are being protected. I don't think that's going to be an issue for your clients, but want to make sure.
No, we had planned, no refueling in any of the buffer zones. No stockpiling of material, especially backfill material. And treat it as if a full NOI was submitted. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you very
So
much.
we should prepare the waiver for the next meeting.
Yes, please. And Amy
Okay.
will be in contact with you just to communicate.
Okay.
as well. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead. 8:20, we will open the 8:15 continued public hearing notice of intent 1 Sawyer Lane, Mass DEP 204-951, construction of a deck and shed. Of note, prior to this, there are letters of interest from neighbors that have been posted to the commission members and on the website as well. Who would like to address 1 Sawyer Lane this evening?
This is the owner, Arshad Nisar. Good
Thank
evening,
you.
ladies and gentlemen. So I had some couple more slides. Definitely many of my neighbors, in fact, everyone wants this deck to be completed. I'll show some more pictures to get you guys, ladies and gentlemen, a better perspective of what is going on there. I didn't have those pictures last time. So if you can see did I share my screen? Oh, sorry. Let me just share my screen. Share screen. So this is where we were. Hold on. Yeah, this is where we were last time. Yeah. So we had. Thank you all. You had okayed the blue circle is that double deck, which is very just hugs the 100-foot line, and the green thing is the thing that's being debated. And my neighbors want that to be completed. I will go over the details. And this orange circle was the shed, which obviously we don't want in the 50-foot zone. So I moved it. So next slide will show where I moved it to. And I did talk to the building inspector, and he is okay with that location. So it was moved across the street out of the 50-foot boundary line. So next slide will show the details of what kind of shed and where, I'll zoom into that part. So I have a well here. So I talked to the Board of Health said, as long as you're 10 feet away, you're fine. So I have a 2-scale, 20 feet radius. And then this is the shed, 8 by 12. So the building inspector agreed this is probably the best place to put it, given the slope of the land. So, and this is the 50-foot line I've drawn here. Let me just show you. Yeah, I'll go a laser pointer. Yeah, this is the 50-foot line. And that's the 100-foot line. And this is the building setback limits, from the road, because there's a Harvard Road here. So this kind of seems a flat sort of area where I could put it. If you guys, ladies and gentlemen, allow it, that's one request I have for tonight. And the other, if you want me to go to the other, this is low-hanging fruit. So just to give a little bit of perspective, before I dive into the deck here, there are other things that have happened on my property which you the commission would consider good, and it didn't bring up before. I have a very nice garden, with a lot of pollinators. I don't mind the bees. Amy gave me a list, so I have trees there. It's very well vegetated. My construction boundary that was from 2014 is still in place. I've gotten like organic material, like fallen logs, border this and that kind of protects. Nothing is eroded. This wetland area is certainly, we don't even walk there. So this is our area. So there's one more thing that happened, which I didn't bring to your notice last time, which is actually good for the wetlands. My driveway, this is not the as-built. This is the pre-built, drawing. So the people who made my driveway, the contractor said it's better to turn the driveway this way than turn it that way. He was basically finding it too small. Plus, it would be going more towards the wetlands. So now these contour lines are much further. So the activity is quite a bit, like 10 feet away from that by putting the turnaround this way. And then this boundary here, originally, we actually reinforced it. It's like boulders, and there's a lot of vegetation. So no drainage goes from even the road over to that, it goes into that vegetated area. So everyone said this is good for wetlands as well. So that's been happening, and it is a grove of pine trees, nice pine trees, young pine trees growing in. They were old pine trees, and seems like they have started covering the land with like smaller, and they are there, they look nice, and we like them there. So in this area, pine trees growing. So let me come to the deck now. That was the shed, and let's talk about this green deck. So I took pictures to give you a good perspective of what is here really. I didn't have pictures last time, sorry. So if I stand where the arrow is pointing and I take a picture and I look at this corner of the house. So this was the old proposed deck, which was huge. It was on many sonotubes, like 12 or 13 sonotubes. And there was even a stairway going down to the lawn, meaning, we would come out of this whole family and there would be quite a bit of disturbance. I honestly, myself, when I ran into other problems with this project, I kind of thought if I had to scale back, this is a good thing to scale back. Let me put the deck on this side. I was conscious of even this, and among many things. So this is a picture of the corner of the house. And that is the deck where we want, this smaller. So the red axes are not doing this at all, but this covered deck that is shown, it won't be covered deck again, because covered deck would need a bigger footing. It will be just a deck, 7 by 14, only 7 feet out. Yeah, actually my house is already very close to the 25 feet line here, and this won't be getting the house any closer. And if we look at this angle, this whole side, which would have a deck all the way here, is no more there. So just this side, let me show. So I took several pictures. One picture I took from this corner to give an idea of this. I took another picture directly looking towards the deck where the proposed deck would sit. And this is what you see. And then I took another picture looking at this way where the arrow points. This is the construction boundary. You can see this construction boundary I've kept intact with fallen logs, and there were a lot of rotten trees here. So, and this is the wetland area with the vegetation, everything intact. I only pulled out that multi-rosa, which was an invasive thing that Amy allowed me to pull out, but we just let it be. And we just walk, and this is all covered. This is lawn area. And what we are proposing is this deck, which would not even have these 3 sonotubes. Now we are using helical piles, so there will be no digging here at all. So in other words, this lawn area would be preserved as it is, and this boundary, would be like that. I would, you guys can inspect anytime, and I'm not, because there's no stairway. We just will be on the upper level only. It's just my bedroom, and there will be a deck here. Nobody's going to come down this deck into this area. Plus, if I'm asked, I can do some more planting here. That could help the wetland. I'm ready for that. So far, planting wise, I have probably done, all I could, but I can do more. We could put more. I don't know. Is it allowed to put? I don't touch it. I don't let anything. So any tree a couple small trees fell. There was a rotting tree here at this point. So the Littleton Electrical Department came to cut that down because it was close to the power lines there's a road now. There's a driveway. There was an old road here. So they cut it down and they just left it there. They didn't took it. So I put those logs here to kind of keep. And that's what I've been doing. I'm not been, and this is my request, because I would, honestly, there were things in the construction process that got me to this point. They were I was very overwhelmed with that. I had no idea of what wetlands really are because it's the first experience building a house here, but I understood it, and it's a very good thing to have. Prevents floods. It does a lot of things in third world countries, which probably none of you live in. a lot of bad things happen because wetlands are encroached upon. So I'm very conscious of that. I'm more of a nature person, but this is the nature of the beast that I got here because of because of various events. And my idea was never to kind of barge into the wetlands. Or the plot was, some people say the house should not have been here. Honestly, I was a plot for sale and I just bought it. And those things came to my mind later. Okay, I need this. And obviously I followed all procedures. So hence I'm here requesting you to the commission to please consider this waiver for aforementioned reasons and requirements as a homeowner.
Thank you for that presentation. What I'd like to do is to ask the commissioners if they would like to ask you any questions or submit any comments to you.
Please.
So I think a lot of positive things have been done here, moving the shed, reducing the size of the deck. A lot of good improvements to your plan. Moving the pull off from the driveway.
Thanks.
Any other commissioners have any comments or questions?
I have a question about the shed placement. So I understand you moved it to the other side of the driveway. I was looking at the street view of that area. So are you proposing to put the shed now in that grassy area, or would you need to take some trees down in order to place the shed?
No, there's not even a single tree I have to take down there because there are a couple of trees and they are nice pine trees. So one is here, one is, I'm putting it between them. There's ample space. There's about 20 feet between the two trees. So there are two nice pine trees that are here and I have no reason to take them down. They look nice. So, and there's ample room between them because the shed is only 8 by 12. So I measured those, that area and it seems like it will fit. It will be plus minus few feet, maybe 4 feet here or there. 2 or 3 feet here or there, but it will not cut down anything. It will not violate any zoning laws here. So this is the flattest part. No trees will be taken down.
Great.
So as a point of reference for the commissioners, Amy had mentioned that if this shed is outside of the 50-foot buffer, we could do a minor project approval.
Sure.
Under MAWPA and the bylaw. So just a point of reference in regards to the shed. I just had some questions in regards to the porch, and I feel strongly that I don't believe it would meet the waiver requirements. I've worked with other outbuildings like that and homes like that, and would suggest obviously something like a bay window or princess porch that still allows an emergency egress if you want, or different window in there as well. But I do not feel comfortable with the proposal of a porch that close in the wetlands.
I had even investigated that bay window or doing something like that. But honestly, the construction, I did talk to my contractor. The joists in my house run, unfortunately, in a wrong way. Had they been running inward, I would definitely have done a French porch or something like that because they need the joists to run a certain way.
Yeah. What about a princess porch, sir?
We'll try to see. Isn't that again needs support from the building inside?
I think inside and outside structurally. Yep.
Yeah. Outside is, I understand these 3 supports here. The thing is that there won't be even it will be just I don't know whether you folks are probably aware of helical piles.
We are very versed in them.
Yeah, the helical piles are very, very earth friendly, and they will be even smaller ones. That's why had it been covered, we probably had to put bigger helical piles or bigger sonotubes. That's why we removed the covered thing also. So it's just like that. And frankly, honestly, I would have, I did talk to my contractor. I told him, hey, he came in there, he looked, he said, let me look at the joists. He said it will be more, more work would have been fine, but it would be something that would not really have a long-term structural, integrity if it's done in the wrong way, because the joists are wrong. Joists were done in a different way that time. We didn't think, we would be faced with this issue because it was allowed that time. So honestly, I have other slides to show you what happened to my project.
So what I
Why
think,
it's
so
not
that
there.
we, obviously, let's go ahead and ask other commissioners if they have any thoughts or comments.
Yeah, Madam Chair, a couple of things here. One, purely procedural. Unless I missed it, and I'm happy to be wrong here, I don't think we've seen a revised.
Sorry, you haven't seen what?
We haven't seen a revised waiver request. Is that correct? Have I missed something?
Revised waiver. Did I have to do any more paperwork? I did ask Amy. I was not told to do.
2 weeks ago, we had specifically requested, and again, I'm going to go back to this. I understand what you're saying with respect to the shed. The shed is not mentioned anywhere in any.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I think there was a typo or was left out for some reason. I could definitely write it back. Oh, okay.
And so there's a purely procedural thing. So I think we got to dot some i's and cross some t's there, and
Sure.
we can address those.
Yeah.
In terms
I'll work
of
with Amy.
the waiver for the covered deck, I can't reconcile how we could give a waiver for this deck while 20 minutes ago we were telling someone that they needed to remove fill in a wall within the 50-foot buffer. It would be wildly inconsistent to approve this and force the modifications that we're forcing on that other project. I think we need to, as a commission, present a very consistent perspective with respect to the no disturb zone, and I don't see how this particular component to the project, the other one closer to the 100-foot buffer, I totally get my head around. I don't see how this meets the waiver requirements in any way, shape, or form.
My request is I had a set of events that happened and that kind of just, put my whole project in jeopardy. And none of those were, majority of that was not in my control and not of my doing. There were other forces at work. I have slides to show what happened if you guys have time. And this is like a part of my unfinished project, unfinished house, that every neighbor here wants to be done, to be completed. And I have utmost respect for the
Mr. Sorry, can I ask you a
wetland.
really straightforward question?
Yes,
When was the construction of your house completed?
It started in 2014. I got occupancy in 2016.
So you've had 6 years to resolve this. I just don't see that as compelling.
Because this project, what I had, what happened to me, if you want to see other slides, I was financially ruined. There was a component of the town also involved in it. I can't, it has to be a big, my lawyers have to sit and sift through that evidence. I honestly am a sincere person. I just wanted to build my house. So I had 2 sons to send to college. I was financially, significantly affected and overwhelmed by this, what happened to me between 2014 and 2016. And I don't want to open that whole Pandora box. My request was, I just wanted to finish my house. And that explains the long wait. Why would I wait for so many years? People would just want to finish their decks, they want to enjoy their house. So I had to, there was a contractor that the building commissioner asked me to take him. He didn't write any, but there are emails, there is evidence. If you want to show, I had just kept that slide for last. That's the slide.
So
I can go through all details.
Okay, so we're talking
there's-
here about the Wetlands Protection Act.
I'm
So we
asking.
need, and
I'm
we're all very considerate of the challenges that we've gone through, but we recognize that we are here for the Wetlands Protection Act and also the request for a waiver, and if you can meet those requirements. So if we can stay focused on that, there are 3 items
Sure.
brought forth to us in your color-coded slides of the shed and your 2 porches. So I think we've been quite clear of where the support has been. Obviously, you've been diligent since the last meeting of positioning where you think the shed might be. I can't speak for the commission, but I think that has been a positive improvement.
Yeah.
So if we can stay on track here, you have asked us for 3 things.
Sure.
And so we would like to carry on. If there are any other commissioners that would like to ask any specific questions or offer comments.
So, I agree with Chase's perspective on this, considering the previous applicant that we just talked to. I agree that would be extremely inconsistent for us to allow that covered deck to be constructed within the 50.
So we have a notice of intent that's in front of us that has 3 items. What would you all like to do?
Correction, sir, it's got 2 items. And I'm going to keep hitting this point because the shed, Brian's questions about the tree removal, how one gets to the shed, none of that's addressed.
Okay,
And
so,
I'm not going to approve something where it's just.
okay.
The question is, so even the shed is not approved?
And I'm telling you that the filing associated with this
Yeah, sure.
project does not address the shed. And I realize it's a wildly bureaucratic thing, and I hate to throw that at you, Mr. Nassar. We did bring it up 2 weeks ago, that this needs to just be addressed in an addendum. The filings need to be right and revised and clear. And I'm unwilling to approve a project unless they're clear.
I definitely agree. I did talk to Amy while she was, trying to leave for vacation. I would, I didn't know how to change that verbiage or something. It just slipped me my thought process. It was on the list, and I know you guys had asked me to do it. You gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen had asked me to do it, but it slipped through. It's a bureaucratic mistake. I am so sorry for it. I will not repeat this mistake. I will get the papers done. I will, put the deck shed on it officially and present to you. And, what else can I do? I will do that. I'm so sorry for not having done that. But I would request the commission to see, I have been through a lot, that this project got delayed. It's for certain reasons. Nobody would not want to do his deck so many years. I mean, I had to take ownership as a general contractor, and I had to kind of get all this rest of the house done. It was honestly not my mistake, not my fault, and I won't
Okay,
go into this.
let's carry on because we do have other hearings as well. Andrew, any comments, or Brian, anything else?
So I would just echo the previous concerns mentioned tonight. The requirements of meeting the bar for the waiver issuance for the deck. That's a very strict requirement, and being consistent is also a very good point. Previous projects before us tonight, we've held them to a very high standard, so we'd want to carry that forward. But the waiver justification is really the key part here. That's a very high bar to cross. So, I'm still kind of hung up on that as well.
Does my plea that it was a sequence of events that left it undone, and honestly, my own, the harm it caused me, the financial harm, those that prevented me getting to do it, and I was not aware there are laws or rules changing, underneath me. So I thought, I was under the impression I will complete it someday, and COVID also delayed it a bit. I was trying to do it just before that happened, and the contractor didn't come. Then it fizzled out. My request and humble request would be, if I'm allowed to do this, I understand you have to be consistent, but I believe it's only 7 feet, and the house is already close to the 25 feet on that side, which I strictly observe this boundary. You guys can do an inspection and take a
But
look
sir,
at
you do recognize that if that your house would not be built under today's standards.
I do, but that's again my.
So if we can, let's come to some resolve here of which direction everyone would like to go in with this. Are you requesting a closure this evening and a vote, or would you like to keep it open and try and make other modifications?
I definitely would want to make other modifications. Of course, the shed thing, I need to put it back on papers. But if you guys could give me some direction, if there's a possibility, as you mentioned, as I said, I honestly looked at that firsthand. If there's a balcony, porch, or something that would. So the concern would be.
So with due regard, I think you've heard from, I believe, every commissioner this evening in regards to the porch. We're happy to go through and just kind of do a summary for you.
Sure.
But I know I personally would rather see something as what is stated, something that's cantilevered, which would be what I refer to as a princess porch, or some other type of structure that does not project out and have any footings. So I would ask the rest of the commissioners to offer their input. Thank you.
To echo what you just said, Sarah, Mr. Nassar, the issue is really the ground disturbance, right, associated with this porch. So if you and your contractor are able to explore some other architectural options that eliminate the need for ground disturbance within the 50-foot buffer zone, then, in my opinion, then you'll be in a lot better shape for this project.
I'll try my utmost best to see how we could configure it some other way, but.
Okay, if we may, I'd like to keep things going to carry on and have other commissioners offer their thoughts once again.
I think Brian and I have a different perspective here on the ground disturbance. My issue is not just the ground disturbance, but rather there's a certain value in, as we expand the decking outwards. I mean, consider an extreme scenario. If you were able to cantilever a deck 25 feet out and actually overtop the wetland, I would consider that to be a substantial wetland impact, regardless of the ground disturbance. And so my personal perspective is that the only thing that I would be comfortable with is a bay window or something of that nature. And it's not atypical in something like this for commissioners to have disagreements of opinion, but I do think it's important for the applicant to know that there might not even be uniform consensus with respect to a cantilevered porch or something of that nature.
Okay, thank you. Another commissioner? Carl, Andrew?
I'm good by what's been mentioned already, Sarah. Thank you.
Okay, Andrew?
I mean, I'm willing to consider a lesser porch that's been mentioned, or a picture window. Well, I mean, a picture window would be no disturbance, so that's always good. But I'm very much hung up on the waiver requirements. I mean, it's going to be a very high bar to justify any outward structure like this. So it's a tough situation.
Right, so I think what I'm hearing is that we'd like to go ahead and continue this another time to February 22nd. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Would the applicant, Mr. Nassar, like for us to carry this on for another hearing? So we're looking for guidance from the applicant if you would like for us to carry this on or close it out this evening. You're on mute, sir. You could just give us a thumbs up if you'd like for us to carry it on. Okay. Thank you. We will carry it on to February 22nd. Okay. Thank you. Good evening. Okay. We have an 8:30 project update, 9 Air Road. I'm not sure if anyone is here to discuss that. Amy was uncertain if anyone was going to be here. I will look in the participants.
Look like anybody.
Oh, what happened? Okay. Amy was unsure whether Kyle Mann was going to come in or not. And so I think we'll just wait to hear back from them what that will be. So does anyone else have anything that they would like to discuss or add? Okay. Our next meeting is February 22nd, followed by March 8th. And if we don't have anything else, if someone would like to make a motion at 8:51 to adjourn.
One quick administrative thing, Sarah. Are we going to continue with remote meetings for the foreseeable future?
I thought we were through April. Amber, are you still on?
Yeah.
Do you know what's on the books for us? I think it's through April, correct, for remote?
I don't, but let me see if Judy does.
Okay.
No worries. Maybe it's just an administrative topic for the next meeting to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Sure. I think
how
Amy,
those things are going to.
yeah, I think we talked about it, but I want to say that was back in October, November.
Right, that was like 1,000 years ago.
That's fine. Amber, that's okay. You don't need to bother Judy. We'll go ahead and discuss it at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you though. Okay. Do we have a vote?
It would be nice to be consistent with all the other boards, I would think, Sarah.
Yep. I think it not up to me.
I wouldn't mind to see you guys face to face every once in a while.
Okay. All right, so do we have a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second,
Andrew, one more time.
One more time. Here we go. Roll call vote. Brian,
Brian Crowley, aye.
Sarah,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Chase,
Chase Carey guy.
Carl,
Carl Melberg, aye.
myself, I. We're adjourned.
Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely Valentine's Day next week.
Hey, Sarah,
Yes.
have we heard anything